All right, hi everyone. This is Coach Sofi Marin here, and I'm with Coach Dana Williams. We're here at Rafa Cycle Club in San Francisco, finishing up our Coach's Corner. Thanks to everyone who came out for that. Today we wanted to do a video blog talking about breakaways. It's a question we get frequently from you guys, our athletes, and others. And we're going to sit with Dana, who's a multi-time state champion and national champion, and he's going to give us some tips on how to establish a break, what you should do once you are in a breakaway, and what kind of riders are suited to breaks, and sort of disadvantages and advantages. So without further ado, let's get to it, Dana.
All right.
So the first question we want to ask is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of getting into a breakaway?
Well, I guess if we start advantages, it kind of plays into it basically. I mean, if it's a breakaway, it's less people you're up against. So if your goal is to place really well in the race, you are improving your chances considerably than if you're staying, in a big field. That said, we'll get to. I mean, based on the type of rider you are, that may be an advantage and disadvantage. But in general, that is the advantage of getting into it. As far as the disadvantage, again, that kind of plays a little bit the same thing, your style of rider. You're in a break, if you are maybe, it's a hilly course and that doesn't suit you, well, it might not be to your advantage, more of a disadvantage. But also one thing to consider too is if you're riding solo or for a team. So sometimes the advantage if you're working for a team and the goal is a team, and getting in a break, even if you're not the strongest, could be advantageous because it's wearing out other team members trying to get up to it.
Mm-hmm. What about a few things that make a course breakaway friendly? So when you guys show up to a race and you know the course profile and you know your own strengths and weaknesses, what can we assume would make a course breakaway friendly that you should even try for one?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things that come to mind.
After this.
The course profile. Typically a break typically starts when there's some hard efforts and people are a little fatigued and there's a little surprise. So that comes into the profile of the course. Mm-hmm. Then also the conditions, so like winds, definitely crosswind, headwind, tailwind, they all play into breakaway. And it's not one specifically because breakaways occur in all those different conditions. And then there was one other one.
What makes the course breakaway friendly?
Yeah, it was course.
Wind and terrain, talked about.
Yeah.
If the race is really easy, is that a time to try to establish a break? If a rider's feeling super rested.
Right. Yeah. I mean, no. I would say it can happen, but the chances are a lot less. A lot of the crits that I do, for example, or I'm doing masters, 45 to 60 minutes. If I really want to make a move go, I'll wait till at least probably 25 to 30 minutes into the race. There's maybe a lot of solo riders trying to put in some moves, legs are softened up a bit, and then you counter a move coming back, and that's a good chance. Same road race, it'd be a little longer into it typically, maybe an hour into it, maybe if it's a 2.5, 3 hour race. When again, legs are softened up, guys have put in some good efforts, that's a good chance.
So wait until people are a little bit tired, there's been some attacks that have gone, that's when it's more likely.
Yeah.
What about, let's think about what kind of rider you guys are and what kind of rider should actually put their energy into trying to get into a break,
Yeah, I'd say, I'm going to use an example. Here in NorCal, early season race is Snelling, fairly flat course with a little bit of rolling terrain. Wind usually comes into the condition there. And that one, again, because of it, it'll come down usually to a sprint, whether of a small group or a big group. So I'd say for example, if you are more of a climber or a little bit more of a roller, you don't have a strong sprint, then definitely trying to get into a break. If you have teammates and you have a stronger sprinter, having them sit back and maybe marking moves if you are in a break to try to get up to you, that definitely is the case. And if you're a sprinter and and it finishes on a climb and you don't have a chance of making it, you may be advantageous for you to try to get in a move, burn some matches, and let your climber get a little break and have other people chase you down. You're not going to make it to the finish, or at least, so you're working for your climber, who will hopefully get the job done at the end of the race on that climb.
Yeah, so I think that's a good point, like thinking about the course that you're racing on and thinking about your own strengths and weaknesses and where your best odds of winning are going to be. If you're a pure sprinter and it ends on a climb, yeah, maybe go with that break, right?
Right.
If you're a pure sprinter and it's flat, wait for the field sprint and don't necessarily burn your matches trying to sit in the wind all day in a break.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about what your top 5 tips to establish a break. So how do we establish a breakaway in a bike race?
I would say, we kind of covered them. Is again more waiting a little bit until legs are softened a little bit, a little fresher. Taking into consideration your strengths and weaknesses of the rider, whether you're a sprinter, whether you're a climber. The course profile, whether it's flat, whether it's hilly, weather and the wind, definitely, seeing, where those are come into play and when maybe, we talked about earlier, is when pressure's on a little bit, people are getting tired based on those conditions, then typically that's a time when a break will be let go. Nobody will chase it down. Also considering who's in the break and your chance, the other one, sorry, was practicing. Again, getting into races and not expecting it's not just going to happen. Getting to know your other people you're racing against, knowing their strengths and weaknesses as well as yours. That definitely that's really one of the most important, I would say.
Cool. That's some good tips. So, just to have like a mock race scenario. Say we're in the middle of a road race. There's been some attacks. Maybe we've just finished a climb. People are tired. We're cresting the climb, and then it goes into maybe a technical section afterwards. Is that a good time to attack?
I would say if you have good technical descending skills, yeah, you could definitely do that when guys are tired. If you're at your limit too at the top of the climb, it may not be, might not be able to put a hard enough acceleration in. Again, so it kind of depends a bit on your strengths in the situation, and if you're solo or if you have teammates and what has happened up to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So once in a breakaway, what should a rider focus on or pay attention to? So you've gotten in the break, now what do? Do you just sit there and ride for the rest of the race?
Yeah. I think first thing you have to do is understand what is the goal. So if you're with a team or by yourself. If, for example, the team and you're not the designated guy and you're doing work for somebody back in the break, then doing some work to keep that and have others chase, and yes. That said, it's really important to, when you're in the break, to look around and who is with you in the break. And this is where practice comes into play. Knowing the course and knowing your competitors. If you don't know who each person is in that break, it's hard to assess whether you have a high chance of doing well in that break. But I'd say, that's definitely is number one. If you got the experience and practice, when you're in that break, look who's around you. Do you have a good chance of winning? If there's a strong sprinter and you're not that strong, well, you'll know you get, at the end of the race, they'll, easily beat you, then it may not be the best. That said, you may be only 3 or 4 of you, and your chances of getting a top 3 is higher than if you came back in the group, and the whole group was there. Then it's advantageous to push that and knowing, okay, I'm going to go for second or third, and I'll be happy with that.
Right. So speaking of, how can someone win from a breakaway? So you've gotten into the break, it's established, you're coming toward the end of the race. Now a rider should start thinking about, what are my best odds of winning?
Yeah. And that comes into your strengths and weaknesses as a rider, and also the course profile.
Yeah.
So if we go to strengths and weaknesses, if you are I know for myself, I usually, can hold sustained power pretty good for a long way. So for me, waiting to the last 50 meters, typically not my best. I'll maybe go from longer and be able to hold it. If we look at more of the course profile, look around and your strongest climber, then on that last climb you have a high chance of doing well. So it's waiting for that. That said, if you aren't a strong climber, it may be advantageous to try to get away from your break, get to the bottom of that climb first, and just have your best effort, and that may get you to the top, to the finish faster than your breakaway companions.
Yeah. So I like the point of always thinking about what's going to improve your odds or your team's odds of winning in a bike race, whether that's getting into a break, working the break, doing minimal work in the break, and then thinking about who I'm with and what are my best odds of winning from this smaller group. Any last tips for riders interested in learning how to get into a break and then kind of what to do when they're in it? Any of our Achieve athletes, do you have any last tips for them?
Yeah, I mean, I can't express the importance of practicing, getting out there and racing. That is really, it becomes intuitive in certain areas when you do certain group rides. For example, getting out group rides and knowing the terrain and knowing those other riders that come out is a great time to practice. And really, and also I think just being present and focused when you're in the race. It's sometimes like, oh, I'm going to put this hard effort down, and all you're focused on is putting that hard effort, and you're not really paying attention to what's going around you. That's really important, just to get lots of practice and stay present and focused, and so you're able to absorb everything that's going on, and then debriefing at the end of the race. And so hopefully the next race you can maybe not make the same mistake or try something a little different and see how that works out.
Thanks so much, Dana. If you guys have any questions about particular races or courses, or what kind of rider you are and how to get into a break, definitely leave us a post in the comments section below this video, and we'll see you soon.
All right, thank you.